Welcome to the Here You Are podcast. This podcast is about life's journeys, big and small. I'm your host, Alex Wiseman, and together we are going to explore stories of resiliency, growth, self-discovery, hope, and everything in between. This passion project comes from a deep belief that storytelling works. And sometimes we need to hear from someone who has a story even somewhat similar to ours that we're going to be all right. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's dive in together.
Today, I'm excited to introduce you to someone who truly embodies resilience and compassion, my friend Katie. Katie wears many hats. She's a loving mom, a dedicated wife, a caring sister and daughter. Working in community health, she brings light and support to the lives of many in our community. But beyond all her roles, Katie is simply a bright light herself, someone whose warmth and strength inspire everyone around her. I'm honored to have her here today to share her story and the journey she's been on. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you. Very sweet.
Yeah, it was my pleasure to write it up.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when we first chatted about, collaborating on an episode, we talked about a very recent experience that you encountered with your husband, Jack, and your son, George. But before we dive into your story, do you mind introducing yourself to listeners and just kind of telling us a little bit about who you are and what a day in the life of Katie looks like?
Okay.
Start anywhere.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And don't forget to mention Annie.
Yes. Okay. I'm Katie. I am 36. I find that the older I get, I forget my age.
Same.
It happens a lot.
Same.
I grew up in Windsor. I went to University of Windsor. I am married. I've been married since when did we get married? 2018. I have a little guy. He's 2.5. His name is George. What else? I work in community health. I started that position in January of last year, so I've been there for a year. And I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I'm really close with my family. I have a sister and several nieces and a nephew and some other soon-to-be nephew and or niece. I'm not too sure yet. Day in the life. I'm a homebody and I'm a family-oriented person. So
awesome. Cool. No, I love that. And so when did you and Jack meet, your husband?
Oh my gosh, we met in high school, but we officially started dating in 2009. So we have been together for 16 years.
Wow, that was quick math.
Yeah. Yeah, 16
awesome.
years. 16 years we've been together.
Awesome.
Do we consider each other high school sweethearts? No, but we've known each other since high school.
Okay. That's okay. That's great. Awesome. And how would you describe Jack to people who maybe don't know him, have never met him?
Jack is very personable. He's loving. He is very caring. He's the best father. I'm going to start to get emotional just talking about it.
That's okay.
He's hilarious. He's smart. He is quirky.
Mm-hmm.
He's silly, and he's the love of my life.
Aww, amazing. And I'm lucky to know Jack too.
Yes, you do know him.
I'm lucky to know Jack. I'm lucky to know him from the gym.
Yep.
And I mean, Windsor.
Friends of friends.
Yeah. Windsor
Small
is
Windsor.
this big.
Yep.
If you can see, if you are not watching the video back of this, I am holding up maybe half an inch. Windsor is tiny. If you're not familiar with it, we are all like 1 degree of removal from each other in some way, especially if you're in the same age range. So yeah, he's all those things. He's personable. He's kind. He's always, hey, how's it going? And then a follow-up question like, how's this?
Yeah.
How's that? And he had no hesitation to say like, how'd you feel about how the Yankees did in the World Series? And I was like, hey, Jack. But fair, because it was not good. So yeah, personable is a great way to describe him.
Yeah, he is.
He makes people feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So if it feels good and it feels comfortable, take us back to the event in a way that feels accessible and is at a pace that feels good for you, knowing that you can pause and reroute at any time.
Okay, so everything, normal day. This was back in June 9th of 2024. So Jack had been preparing for a half marathon. So he ran the Detroit Free Press in October of 2023. So he's had several half marathons under his belt. He's been a runner for quite some time. He used to run in high school as well. So he had scheduled a half marathon out in Erie Beach. So it's about like an hour away, just outside of Chatham. And that was scheduled for June 9th. So the night before, he, carved up and normal, went to bed early. And he was going to go, he drove himself. So he left early so that he could make it to get his bib and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So he drove early. And then George and I were going to leave, at a normal time. That way we could watch him cross the finish line. So based on his pace and everything like that, I knew he'd probably cross the finish line closer to 10. So George and I, at this point, George is now, he was just shy of 2 years.
Okay.
So, got up in the morning and we headed out to Erie Beach, and driving to Erie Beach, we got there, and this is kind of important for like the rest of the story later on. So as we're pulling up, I'm talking to this woman and I'm like, I rolled down my window, do you happen to know where I should park for marathon? That way I could watch the finish line. And she motioned, she's like, you can just park right here. It's like right around the corner. So we parked and then we went to the finish line, and I think it was about 9:40 or so.
Okay.
So 9:30 or 9:40. So I knew, and Jack sent me his location, so I kind of had an idea where he was at.
Yep.
Kind of thing. So that was really helpful. So, get to the finish line. George is playing as like a 2-year-old is and running around and that kind of thing. And then I'm seeing Jack is pretty close to the finish line. So Jack crosses the finish line, I think close to 9:50 or so. Personal record. He wants to make sure that he lets everyone know his personal record.
It's important.
It's important. So I have, like a video of, George running up to him at the finish line and stuff like that. So completes the race, and a couple minutes afterwards, he's, he just ran a half marathon. So he's obviously very tired and he's trying to catch his breath and that kind of thing. So just gave him some space, and George and I were kind of playing on the playground. We check in with him every once in a while. He was having Gatorade and water and that kind of thing. And he just wasn't recovering as quickly as he normally did. However, at the time, I didn't think of anything. It was just kind of, maybe he just didn't prepare enough, or maybe it was just, a harder race for him, that kind of thing. He never once, expressed any pain in his chest or anything was going on. So, he would come in, I'd check in on him, and then he was kind of playing with George for a little bit. I went to the bathroom and I ran into that same woman who I had asked for directions for the finish line in the bathroom. So I saw her, and I can't remember, we were cracking jokes and stuff like that. And then came back, and Jack even was like laying on the ground and was trying to like make himself sick, just trying to make him feel a little bit better. So the plan was for us to go out for breakfast. He had parked in Blenheim. So he ran from Blenheim to Erie Beach. So whatever the distance is. What's the half marathon? 21 kilometers, whatever, 21.1.
Something like that.
So he drove to Blenheim. So the whole plan, I guess, was to go get breakfast and then drive to Blenheim to get his car, and then we would drive home. So he said, just give me some more time and then we'll go get breakfast. So Erie Beach is absolutely beautiful. It's a stunning beach. So we've been there before with Annie and my dog. And yeah, important. So I was playing with George at the playground, and every so often I just like look over at Jack and just check in. And then we were looking for rocks with George. It's kind of eerie because I have pictures of George at around like 10:30, 10:40.
Okay.
And then I look over and I don't see Jack on the bench. He's now on the ground, and I realize that there's something going on. So I pick up George and I run over, and Jack is on the ground, and there's someone over top of him, starting compressions on him. So at this point, I have absolutely no idea what's going on. I looked over at him a minute or two just before that. And that's something that kind of goes back in my mind. Like, when was the last time I checked on him? That kind of thing. So I run over, and I remember having George in my arms, and I just start, that's my husband. Yeah. What's happening? Yeah. And everyone doesn't really know what's going on. Someone is just doing compressions on him. His shirt is ripped open. He's not breathing. He's not responding to anybody or anything like that. I'm just trying to think what we take a break for a second?
Yeah, take a breath.
Take a breath.
Take a breath. Zeus is looking over at you like,
take a breath.
How can I help?
Yes.
You know about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to like play
That's
back
okay.
everything in my head.
Okay. That's okay.
Okay. So I come up to Jack and have George with me, and I realize that he is not responding, and there's someone who's doing CPR on my husband. And a police officer comes over to me, and she, are you his wife? And I said yes. And she said, what happened? And I said, he completed a half marathon. She's like, okay, he did complete it. Asked me some questions about, who he is, his birth date, all that information. And she said, there's someone who is going to be doing compressions on him. I'll keep you posted on kind of what's going on. So there were no paramedics around. Luckily, the individual who was doing CPR on him was an emergency room doctor.
Wow.
Who we actually happen to know. Jack actually knows this individual. He sold a car to him actually 4 days prior.
Wow.
And this individual has also purchased cars off of Jack in the past as well. He didn't know Jack was going to be at this race.
Right.
So the world works in mysterious ways why this individual was there on that day. So at
goosebumps.
Yes, goosebumps. Yeah. At the time, I didn't know that it was him who was doing compressions because I was just in complete shock. Of course. So I didn't realize it was him. So he was doing compressions and all of this going on. Obviously, I'm hysterical. I'm crying. I have George with me. Everyone who was around me was being so supportive and was trying to do everything that they could to help me. Let me take George. And obviously, as a mom and my kid is, glued to me. So, but wanting to be there for Jack or just trying to figure out what's going on. So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to call Jack's dad just to update him on what's going on. But I couldn't make that call myself. So there was a couple like RMTs around, for like post runners to give them a massage and stuff like that afterwards. And they were amazing. They got me a chair and I just said, I need you to do something for me. I need you to call my father-in-law. Just to tell him what's going on. So they were just kind of getting information from the police at that point. And then I also had them call my sister, just to reiterate any information. That way kind of our family knows what's going on.
Right.
And at that point, all we know is Jack's on the ground. There's someone doing compressions. We don't know what is happening.
At this point.
Yes.
Jack is not responsive.
And the total amount of time he was unresponsive was 12 minutes. Wow. So it was 12 minutes of an individual doing compressions on his chest. This doctor, thank God, just doing constant compressions on him. So he did not have a pulse. He was completely unresponsive. There was no paramedics around. And what we were waiting for was we were waiting for the AED machine.
Right.
So there was no AED machine on site. So I believe the OPP actually called the paramedics and they realized the paramedics weren't going to be there in time. So the fastest way for an AED machine to arrive was to call the fire department.
Wow.
And in Erio Beach, the fire department is volunteer based. Okay. So volunteer based firefighters come from all different kind of areas, depending on kind of where you are in the community. So what they had to do is they had to actually go to the fire hall, get the AED machine, and then come.
The OPP.
So the fire.
Yes. The volunteer firefighters. Yes. Okay.
So paramedics, so the firefighters were there before the paramedics arrived.
Wow.
Firefighters arrived. So again, it was 12 minutes of CPR, and then the AED machine arrived. At that point, there were rumblings in the crowd that he was breathing, which he was not. So it was kind of, they assumed when he was doing compressions that there was like breaths happening and that kind of thing. There wasn't. Right. So the doctor, just explained to even the OPP officer, let's give me some space so that I can kind of do my work.
How many people were kind of gathering by this point? If you in your even knew?
Oh my gosh, there was probably like surrounding probably 75 people, 50, 75 people. But the race was still finishing, right? Or it had finished kind of
So it was kind of a natural gathering area.
Yes, it was the finish line. Yeah. So it was kind of off to the side of the finish line. It was just over from like a little bench.
Okay.
Kind of what was happening. So I remember OPP officer, I was sitting down and she came over to me and she's like, I need you to turn around. because at this point we're going to give him we're going to use the AED machine on him, and I don't want you to see what happens. So I turned around, and this wonderful woman who I had seen when I was trying to find parking
3 times now.
Yes, 3 times now. She was the one who like took George and was actually like directly in front of me, so I couldn't see what was happening. So she was talking to me and kind of, I wouldn't say distracting or anything like that, just trying to keep me calm.
So this is the 3rd time you're running into this woman. Another kind of serendipitous moment, it feels like.
So in the moment, I didn't realize it was the same person.
Right.
So she's sitting in front of me, not distracting me, just kind of keeping me kind of in the zone and basically walking me through what's happening.
Okay.
So she's letting me know, the doctor's still doing compressions. We still don't have an update, but they're working on him. And then when the firemen arrived, okay, they're going to do the AED, and that's when the officer came over. We're going to have you turn around. We don't want to watch you.
Wow.
It's quite traumatic to see someone, with the AED machine. So I turned around and, she kind of followed me and just walked me through everything.
Okay.
And I would say within maybe 20 or 30 seconds, I heard like from the police officer, like he has a pulse. So right then and there, obviously there's a sense of relief. And a minute or two later, the police officer said, do you want to go over and see him? So at this point I hand over George, which, just feels so weird. You're handing over your child. So I run over.
Who grabs him?
Her name is Alex. So this is, her name is Alex.
Cool.
So she's the one who, I had seen previously. So she is with George, and George is hysterical. However, he doesn't remember any of it. He's responding to my emotions, right? He's seeing me crying and obviously confusion and stuff like that. So, Alex takes him and I run over to Jack and, put his head in my lap and his eyes are open and he's like, what happened?
Wow.
And I said, you collapsed after the marathon. I said, are you okay? And I'm crying. And he's very, very confused. He doesn't remember any of it. Doesn't remember any of it. So at this point now the paramedics have arrived. So it was the fire department who brought the AED machine. So the paramedics have arrived. So they're loading him up and they're going to take him to the hospital. So at this point, I still have no idea what really happened. I only know is that my husband collapsed after the marathon. So, OPP, come over. Do you want to ride in the ambulance with us? And I just turn into mom mode. I'm like, I have my son with me. His diaper bag is in my Jeep. I have my car here. I am in Erio Beach. I have no family here. I have nobody. And, everything just goes through my mind. I'm a mom, right? Like he hasn't had a diaper change in, 1 or 2 hours. He's due for a nap soon.
Yeah.
It's almost lunchtime, like all these things. I'm like, I'd like to take my car.
Yeah.
And follow.
Yep.
He's in safe hands with the paramedics.
Yeah.
The doctor who was performing CPR hopped in the ambulance as well. So I knew that he was in good hands. So this amazing woman is like, you're not driving. I am driving your car.
Amazing.
And we're going to the hospital. So get in the car. And, at this point, she's like, we ran into each other in the bathroom. We ran into each other.
What are the odds?
When you pulled in. And, so at this point too, I call Jack's dad. So this is the first time that I speak to my father-in-law, explain what's happening, and my sister, and just say we're headed towards Chatham Hospital right now. So they were going to head to Chatham and meet me there. Okay. So about I don't even know the time. A couple minutes go by and I get a phone call from the paramedics and it's actually Jack. So Jack's on the phone. So, the doctor said, I have Jack here. He wants to talk to you. Again, he was just very, very confused. Of course. Didn't know what was going on. And the, EMS said that, he had a STEMI is the word that he used. Okay. And I had no idea at the moment what a STEMI was. So he had a heart attack. Yeah. So, we're not going to go to Chatham Hospital. We're going to take him straight to Windsor. Okay. So cath lab. Yeah. So we have to take him to the cath lab. So now we're diverting. We were heading towards Chatham Hospital. And now we're diverting to Windsor. So this woman who I just met is now driving me to
I love it.
Windsor with my son in the back seat. Yeah. And now I call my sister and I call my father-in-law and give them the update, that he had a heart attack and that we're going to Windsor Hospital, for the cath lab. And to meet me there. So now, we're still an hour
Yeah.
50 minutes, hour
Yeah.
out. So I think we arrived a little after 12 because everything kind of unfolded around 10:40. By the time everything was a little after 11, I think paramedics, that he left. So we arrived at the hospital and I met my father-in-law, my sister, and my mom took George. And George gracefully fell asleep in the car. He was such a good boy.
Yeah.
And the doctor was there. We went through into the cath lab and they already had him under. So they already kind of I didn't have a chance to see him at the hospital, but as I was getting in there, the doctor who was performing CPR was actually at the hospital.
Oh my gosh.
Came out and was talking to me and kind of walked me through what was going on. So they were going to go in to check what was going on. So it turns out that he had a stent put in.
Okay.
So he went into cardiac arrest.
Wow.
Full cardiac arrest, and had to have a stent put in his right coronary artery.
Wow.
And it was something that could have happened 10 years from now, 15 years from now. He has been sober for 19 years.
Wow.
Has been eating healthy and everything. So it's, his lifestyle had nothing to do with his lifestyle.
Right.
It's something that could have happened.
Right.
Genetics play a factor too as well. So, yeah. Heavy.
Right.
Heavy. I'm probably missing some things.
That's okay. That's okay. It's not nothing to retell such a traumatic experience and something that you witnessed from top to bottom. I know that we've had this conversation outside of this moment here, but when folks come up to you and so rightfully so are like, Jack, how are you? I'm so glad you're well. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad everything worked out as it should. But knowing that on the other side of that, you witnessed this top to bottom, like you had a very different view of what happened than his experience. And so to retell that and to bring that into conversation, I think is, like I said, it's not nothing. It takes a certain level of like willingness to say, hey, this happened. I witnessed it. And for lack of a better word, I was scared as hell. Right?
Yeah. Oh, it was traumatic. It was absolutely traumatic to see, the father of my child. And that went through my mind actually like right away. When I saw him on the ground and someone doing CPR, I just started panicking. And, what went through my head, am I about to be a widow at the age of 36?
Right.
And that's literally what I was thinking about.
Of course, because our mind goes to the worst case scenario to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it makes a ton of sense. And you mentioned 12 minutes he was not responsive, which feels like 12 years.
It felt like forever.
Yeah.
It felt like forever.
Yeah.
And in between then, like I know, I can't recall, but I know, people were coming. Everyone was so amazing. Everyone was so supportive. There was the 2 RMTs were there, supportive and asking if I needed anything. And, everyone was trying to help George out. And the officers that were there and the first responders, everyone was incredible.
Yeah.
Everyone was incredible.
Yeah. And quick work to get the AED and those things, like 12 minutes. It's so subjective, like that amount of time. It felt like forever, and it is a long time to be non-responsive, unconscious. And so
it's a very long time.
Tell us a little bit about this doctor.
This doctor who was incredible.
Who was everywhere, along with this woman. Like these people who were just like sent to you in some capacity.
So I don't remember when, his name's Dr. Dixon.
Okay.
I don't remember the first time Jack met him. He sold a couple cars to Dr. Dixon. Jack sold him a couple cars. And they always hit it off. So they've always were texting and cracking jokes and
prior to
yes. And I actually, this was during, so I think I remember he sold him a car during COVID, and I actually assisted Jack with like dropping off the car out in Chatham. So we actually went out to Chatham.
Okay. Is he from Chatham?
Yes, he lives in Chatham. Yeah, he works at the ER in Chatham.
Okay, gotcha.
So I met him previously, and so they always were joking around and texting, and they've always had kind of a relationship. And like I said, Jack never told him that he was going to run the marathon out there.
Right.
Dr. Dixon was actually there to see Alex's husband, which is crazy. So they're actually really, really close. So that's, the world works in crazy ways.
It really does.
That, Alex drove me to the hospital,
Yeah.
and it ended up being Dr. Dixon's like very good friend, and her husband is the one who ran the marathon.
Wow.
So when I saw Dr. Dixon come out of the prep room or whatever, that Jack was going in for surgery, Alex was actually going to drive back with him to China after he knew that everything was taken care of and stuff like that.
Sure.
So
did he ever indicate at what point, like Dr. Dixon, like, oh, I know this person?
Yes. So from afar, it was actually some other individual kind of put it on Dr. Dixon's radar, like, oh, looks like something's happening over there. And at that point, Dr. Dixon actually kind of had an idea. He's like, oh, he's probably having a heart attack, or he's probably in cardiac arrest. Just knowing from afar, just ran a marathon, right? So from afar, didn't know it was Jack. And then as soon as he runs over, realizes that it's Jack Bryan, his car salesman.
His buddy. His texting buddy.
Yes. And thank goodness it was him, because he did not stop doing compressions on him. And that is what saved his life. That is what saved Jack's life. Jack wouldn't be here if it was anybody else, because he didn't stop. He didn't give up. He did not stop.
Wow.
Yeah.
The tenacity in giving 12 minutes of compressions is...
If you've done CPR training,
yes. And they have you practice for like 30-second intervals 30 or something like that, and your arms are taxed.
I think it's like 100 compressions in a minute, so we did over 1,200 compressions.
And you still have a relationship with Dr. Dixon now.
We just saw him on Saturday.
Oh, beautiful. That's beautiful. And
we have a very unique relationship.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. He's our guardian angel.
Yeah. How special is that?
Yeah.
So the event is big. It's huge. Now you're on the other side of it. Now, okay, Jack's got a stent put in.
Yes.
That was terrifying. Yes. Now the aftermath starts to show up, and life starts to look a little bit different. So what does that evolve into?
So Jack was in the hospital for a total of, so everything happened on a Sunday. And he was in the CCU. So it was like the ICU, but like cardiac
care unit.
Yeah, cardiac care unit. Yep. So he was in CCU for 3 nights, and then he was released on the Wednesday. So he was in hospital for, what's that, 4 nights? And I was just riding adrenaline. Yeah. Like for the 72 hours. But also wanting to be with Jack and also wanting to be with George at home. Right. So like, thank goodness for our family, my parents, my in-laws, everyone, all hands on deck. My sister-in-laws, my brother-in-law, brother, everyone was incredible. Unfortunately, George was sick on the Monday, which was like the very next day. Because that's what happens with children sometimes. It's the perfect timing.
Right. So I've learned they're sick for like the first 6 years of their life, pretty much, in some capacity.
So the poor little guy was sick, and obviously he wants his mom. So I tried to be there as much as I could for like bedtime and whatnot. And then I wanted Jack to rest as much as he could. So I gave him, that time at nighttime and stuff like that. So I was home with George in the evenings, and I would be there kind of all day while George was in daycare. Okay. Every doctor, every nurse, everyone that we talked to was also just in complete shock that this happened, just based on, his health and everything. And they're like, wait, what? Yeah.
This doesn't check the boxes.
Doesn't check. Yeah.
This doesn't go with what I learned in school.
This doesn't happen. Yeah. And luckily there were 2 amazing nurses, that, too, from the gym that, that worked on the CCU. So Jack actually knew them. So that kind of made it feel a little bit more comfortable, that they were there. They took care of him. Everyone was amazing. And then, so he was released on a Wednesday. And then from there it was,
for those who aren't going to watch the video and just hear the audio, that is Zeus giving Katie so many kisses.
He's He's a good companion right now.
Yeah.
He's very calm. He's calm. He's calming me down.
Yeah, he's very hairy. There's a lot of shedding happening.
Oh my God.
And there is a lot of licking happening. So we love you anyway, Zeus.
I'm
We
covered
love
in
you,
hair.
buddy. Yeah.
I picked the right shirt
Yeah.
for this.
Yeah. Well, I usually wear black, so I get it. Actually, this couch is black underneath the blanket because I didn't think when I bought it. So okay, so you're
yes. Okay.
he's discharged home.
He's discharged home
after some time in
after
TCU.
some time.
Okay.
Yep. So I was off of work for a total of 3 weeks.
Okay.
And my work was amazing. Everyone was understanding and supportive, and I couldn't have asked for a better employer and kind of work crew.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was amazing. And then it just we got home and then kind of had to get the ball rolling on, okay, now I need, but we need to learn all about these new medications, this new way of life, this new diet, low sodium and lower fat and all these, just a new way of life.
Right. And this is this is a healthy family, a family that prioritizes healthy eating already. And so
I remember one of the questions, they were like, do you eat fast food? And we're like, what are you talking about? We're like, no, we don't eat fast food. Like, not on a regular basis. What are you talking about, right? Like,
right. So it was like a big change, but it didn't make sense by the way you're like, wait, we're already doing a lot of this.
Yeah. Like, I remember the dietitians came in and like, well, what are you eating right now? And we're like, we eat fairly well.
Yeah, balanced plates.
Yes, balanced plates.
Yeah.
Like, we eat fairly well.
Tough.
And the fact that, like, Jack doesn't drink. Jack doesn't smoke.
Yeah.
Checks all these boxes.
Those are the first things.
Athletic,
often,
has run several half marathons.
Right.
So just navigating that, so many doctor's appointments, so many specialist appointments. And then he would start cardiac rehab. So cardiac rehab is a total of 6 months over on Prince Road. So I took a total of 3 weeks off. And during this time, I kept George in daycare just to keep that normalcy, I guess, for him.
It's good for his routine.
Yeah, it's good for his routine. So Jack couldn't do any heavy lifting for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a caregiver for my husband and George.
Yeah.
And I had just started my job in January. So still kind of getting that was my first, my job after coming off of mat leave.
So you're getting your bearings.
I'm getting my bearings still, like 6 months.
Finding your groove.
Finding my groove, full-time mom.
Yeah.
George is now in daycare, getting sick all the time.
All the time.
Still all the time.
Yeah, right. That doesn't stop. That's the part of the normalcy.
I'm trying to still get into my work mom groove. Right. Balancing
your
work,
new normal.
My new normal. Balancing work, balancing family life, balancing friend life, and personal life, and that kind of thing.
And how could you balance, to that point of balance, how could you balance being present for George and Jack, but also your own processing and healing?
It was a struggle.
Yeah.
It was a struggle.
Yeah.
I knew that I was in shock for several days. And I remember talking to several of my friends about I had to make the calls, right? I forgot I made the calls on Sunday to several of our friends and family members to let them know what's going on. And over the course of a couple of days, calling these individuals and letting them know what's going on. And I think it became so robotic, just what happened. And several of them are like, are you okay? You don't sound like you're okay. And I'm like, I am currently running on adrenaline. No, I'm still in shock.
I don't have time to not be okay right now.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So
survival mode.
It was just survival mode. Yeah. And we had everyone on our side, my parents and my in-laws, like I said, all of our family, everyone was stepping in to help where they could. Again, it was just a lack of sleep.
Yeah.
The flashbacks, just the adrenaline, wondering if Jack's going to be okay. The first night of him at the hospital was just I barely slept, and then George was sick, and it was just, not ideal. So within I would say the first week, I knew that I was going to have to reach out to someone. So I reached out to a therapist, and she was able to get me in, I think within 2 weeks. I knew that I was going to have to talk to someone about everything that I went through and everything that I witnessed. And I've been through therapy in the past and it's been really helpful. So I knew that it was something that I was going to need in, moving forward. So I did reach out to her and we had a couple sessions. And then over the course of like 2 months, the PTSD and the flashbacks really were coming and were really, really heavy. And I knew that I was going to have to go on some medication, which pro medication over here, all for that. Yes. And that's made a world of difference for me. And I've been continuing therapy and I've been working out 2 days a week, which has been kind of another kind of therapy for me. So it's been healing in many ways. But still, I mean, there's still moments where I have, flashbacks. Like Saturday night, we went out with Dr. Dixon and afterwards, just a wave of emotions, right? Like every time I see him, I am just so grateful. There's really no words that I can say. But I'm here. I'm stronger than ever. And I'm a pretty badass mom and wife for overcoming such a crazy thing. Like, I mean, Jack overcame something that not many 36-year-olds ever experience. No. But I mean, as a family, I think we've overcome a lot. And hell yeah.
And it made you stronger, not that you needed it.
No.
Right?
No.
And you don't realize that. And even like going back to your point about like pro medication over here, we need to have as a society an honest conversation about what works for you.
Absolutely.
Works for you.
Absolutely.
As long as it's not harming anyone else on this planet, we're good.
No.
And we need to be like, again, as a society, a little bit more in favor of how we process trauma and how we cope and how we get out of bed each day to do the damn thing is up to us. If it's not harming or impacting someone else's life, if it's medication, if it's therapy, going to the gym, psychedelic assisted therapy is something that people are exploring a lot right now with PTSD or terminal illness or anything in between. If it is benefiting you and it's not harming other people, full stop, period. Like, just let people heal in the way that they need to.
Exactly.
And if it's boundary setting, that's another one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So I've been on medication in the past and I knew kind of like my threshold. I was like, I might be okay. When I was with my therapist, I was like, let me kind of navigate this. And then I reached a point where I was like, no, I need a little bit more. Yeah. I need something more. There were things that just, I wasn't present. I wasn't present. I was having flashbacks and I just wasn't present with my personal life, my work life, that kind of thing. And
and you owe it to yourself
to
be present,
to
live the life that you want to live or how you want to live it, right? So,
and having those those constant reminders and those feelings.
Yeah. It's when we can look back at the instance, the event, the trauma, whatever we label it, and we can say, this happened. It does not define me.
No.
I can't change it. It created a lot of circumstances in my life. It created outcomes in my life. It's influenced my emotions, things like that. Sure, that stuff we can navigate. And when we can deal with and we can look at those things a little bit more with self-compassion, then we can move forward and we can process it in whichever way we do that. And there's a million and one ways, right? We're humans. It's nuanced. There's no silver bullet, so to say.
No.
So you're on the other side of it.
I am on the other side of it.
Life looks different now.
Life is much different now. However, I don't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
I don't take anything for granted. Yeah. We're going on a trip soon.
Okay.
A family trip.
Exciting.
Yeah, we got the okay that we can travel and and do things now.
Awesome. Will this be George's first trip?
We're going to Disney.
Oh,
right.
Honestly, just as exciting for the adults.
I know. Cannot wait.
Get the Mickey ears out. Let's go. How has this reshaped, I guess, your view on family, on partnership, on all that?
Just like live in the moment.
Yeah.
So grateful for every day that I'm able to wake up and I wake up next to Jack and I have George and just seeing the many, many milestones and seeing like just George grow up and Jack is there.
Yeah.
Like it's quite wild. Like it was wild the night that he came home from the hospital and we were in bed together.
Yeah.
You know, for that first night, it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because if Dr. Dixon wasn't there,
Yeah.
Jack wouldn't be there with me, right? So it was very hard to wrap my head around.
Yeah.
I cannot believe you're actually here.
Yeah.
Like I can touch you and I can feel you because what I saw was, you know, you weren't responsive. So that was a hard thing for me to, like, I don't know, like you're here, like I can touch you.
Yeah.
I can touch you. You're still here.
Conceptualize.
Yeah, it was very hard to conceptualize because what I had seen, and then you're here and you're talking to me and he doesn't remember the event, but remembers everything. Like there was no cognitive, there was no physical, like he's back to himself.
Wow.
Like he's, yes, physically and mentally.
Amazing.
Like even the doctors were floored that, you know, he bounced back so quickly. Wow. But it was because his healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, that he was physically fit and that kind of thing. They said he bounced back so quickly because of everything.
Right. So we need to remember too, like, a young, healthy person experienced a heart attack. It can happen to anyone. Yes. However, I like to think about a lot of what we do in terms of health and wellness, whether it's going to the gym, taking care of our mental health through therapy, eating well, all of the above, whatever it is. However we're taking care of ourselves is getting us ready for fights unknown and battles unknown.
Yes.
And that's what it comes down to because we don't know what's out there. We don't know what's around the corner. We can't predict it. Nothing in your life would have ever indicated this is going to happen to my healthy husband. But every day we have an opportunity to show up and kind of like train. Yes. Train for life. Train for the fights unknown.
Yes.
And so I think it's important to maintain that perspective rather than like, oh, well, this could happen to anyone. So,
and there was a fear for quite a long time, like when Jack was home and like to leave the house without him or to not, of course, you know, just like not be near him or not, you know, what's going on. Or the first time he went to cardiac rehab and started working out for the first time, the very first time he went for a run. Like the fear that I felt, and I know that he probably felt the same way too, and in different ways. But I've come a long way from you know those first few weeks or those first few months being at home and you know not leaving his side and that kind of thing.
That fear of loss is strong. And that maternal instinct isn't just
it's not just for
your birth
George.
children, right?
Or Annie.
It's for your fur baby, it's for your husband, it's for your loved ones. Like that's your nature.
Wanting to be nearby in case, you know, anything happens. But
yeah. Okay. So Zeus is back. Is there anything that you would specifically say or suggest to anyone who might be navigating a similar situation where they've witnessed something traumatic? Maybe they weren't the individual experiencing the trauma, but they were impacted really intensely in a different way. What might be something you offer them in terms of wisdom?
I think just understanding that it may take time for your body to process what you went through and what you witnessed. You're going to go through a range of emotions, including like shock and frustration and sadness. And I mean, I went through a lot of guilt too. Like, you know, should I have been there, you know, instead of with George playing, you know what I mean? You go through a wide range of emotions. Be open to speaking to either family, friends, be open to therapy. And yeah, just be aware that it will come in waves. And it still does for me.
Of course.
It still does for me. And you're not alone. You're not alone. And even though you may not be the one to experience the maybe physical trauma or, you know, what kind of thing, you still, you know, you still went through something and you still have a story and an experience that you should share. And you're not alone.
Yeah. It's so important to hear that. I think it's important that we know other people have spoken about witnessing something difficult, even hearing about something tragic happening to a family member, a loved one. If that's bringing up feelings in you that are interrupting your
daily, yep,
day to
day to
day,
day, yep.
nothing is too small
Mm-hmm.
to lean on someone
Mm-hmm.
about. If
Mm-hmm.
that's leaning on a best friend, if it's reaching out to a professional,
Yep.
whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But don't find yourself in the conversation of, oh, well, that didn't happen to me.
Right.
So I
Mm-hmm.
need to take care of everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
We need to take care of ourselves first.
Absolutely.
Forever.
Yep.
So that we can be there
Mm-hmm.
for those loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I felt that way, like a lot of my family, especially like my sister, like when I spoke up about, I already called someone for therapy. She's like, yeah, good for you. Yeah. Like, yeah. Good job. Yeah.
And
so
we
just
surround
like
ourselves
felt
with
totally
that.
supported
Good.
throughout everything.
Good.
Yeah.
And surrounding ourselves with those cheerleaders because we deserve that no matter what situation or circumstance. Nothing's too big, nothing's too small. Just don't hesitate. If it feels funny inside you, share it with someone. That's it. Katie, it has been like my sincere pleasure. Your vulnerability, your willingness, all of that has inspired me. And yeah, it's been nothing short of an honor to do this with you.
It's fun.
To let Zeus shed all
Absolutely.
over you.
Yeah, it's okay. Annie's going to be
She's gonna
questionable.
Be super jealous.
Questionable when I get home.
So yeah, I really appreciate you taking the risk and doing this with me.
Yeah.
And
I love what you're doing. It's amazing.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's my privilege to hear people's stories.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank
Yay,
you.
Thanks. Cool.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Here You Are. If any part of this conversation resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. Subscribe, leave a review, send me a message, or share this story with someone who might need to hear it. Wherever you are on your journey, just remember that you are not alone. Keep exploring, keep showing up, and until next time,